Far out in the Pacific Ocean, the hidden gem is exploring deep to the bottom of the sea to harvest black rocks, the gems in a new green rush for minerals.
Everything you need to build an EV battery cathode is in here. I mean, it's an amazing mix of metals that are just made for this time we find ourselves in.
The plan is to drop a collector 4 kilometers down to vacuum up the rocks formed over millions of years and layered with minerals called polymetallic nodules. And a Canadian-registered mining company is first in line to try to do it.
Hi, Jared.
Hi, Susan.
Gerard Barron is the hard-driving CEO and chairman of the metals company, an Australian pitching a mining venture that he says will help save the planet. We caught up with him in Los Angeles.
What we need are base metals that we can build batteries and build the wind turbines and the solar panels so we can move away from fossil fuels and address climate change.
But he's heading into stormy waters. Last November, TMC did extensive trials with its partner Allseas, sending the collector to the ocean floor.
What you'll see if you go down there, 4,200 meters, is a collection of these nodules just lying there like golf balls on a driving range. This one in my hand is about 4 million years old. And today they're still forming.
Highly valuable because of their concentrations of nickel and copper with cobalt and manganese.
Let's get busy and think about how we turn this tremendously successful pilot into commercial production ready. And that's what we're doing now.
But here's the battle. There's no commercial mining permitted yet in the area called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, or CCZ. Lying roughly between Mexico and Hawaii and covering 4.5 million square kilometers. Multiple countries and companies hold exploration licenses across the zone, except for the protected areas in yellow. The International Seabed Authority, which regulates international waters, is trying to write a mining code regulations to be endorsed by its members, including Canada. But a rule triggered this July means approvals are potentially closer than ever, and TMC, with sponsor countries Nauru and Tonga, is preparing. So how much mining are you proposing?
We know that on those two blocks we have around 1.6 billion tons of these very same rocks. Billion tons.
On just your two areas?
That's right. It's enough to electrify the entire North American light passenger fleet.
Meaning nearly every car in America. That's the sell. But deep-sea mining is facing broad opposition.
We're here to deliver this message to your company, which is set to cause huge and irreversible harm.
With negotiations heating up this July, critics are lining up. Over 700 marine scientists and policy experts signed a letter saying we strongly recommend the exploitation of mineral resources be paused. Europe's Science Advisory Council echoed the warning. We should pause to reflect instead of rushing to an early decision that will later be regretted. You have said that the debate over deep-sea mining is over. It's done.
That's
Those
right.
are fighting words to your critics.
What we should be debating here is not whether it should happen or shouldn't happen. We should be debating about the strong regulations, the strong environmental controls.
For me, using deep-sea mining to help fight the climate crisis is like smoking to lower stress.
Diva Amon has gone deep in the CCZ zone as a marine researcher. She signed the scientist's letter.
Many of the animals here rely on these nodules as a home to attach to, something to shelter under. Without the nodules being there, they would cease to exist. People do have this idea of a dark, barren, desolate place that the deep sea is, but actually it's so far from that. There are thousands upon thousands of species that live there, as we said, many of them new to science. It looks like something from a Dr. Seuss novel.
Deep sea mining, she argues, will scrape the bottom of the sea, churn up sediment, and create noise.
It's thought that the top 10 centimeters of the seafloor will be impacted and very much disturbed. A lot of that sediment is actually going to create these sort of plumes, kind of like dust storms, if you will. And then on top of that, there's going to be noise and light in these ecosystems that are incredibly quiet and quite dark.
Our harvester is electric, and there's no drilling, there's no digging, there's no blasting, because these nodules literally lie on the ocean floor. Our job is to collect them. The sediment plume only rises about 2 meters above the seafloor, and up to 98% of it settles in the test area.
TMC says it spent $150 million on scientific research to create an environmental impact assessment, with the results to be uploaded to an open database. So you're saying there's lots more fish in the sea, so to speak, of the same type, so we can risk disturbing some to collect these nodules?
There is no such thing as zero impact, and we have never ever said this is zero impact. What we have said is that the impacts are a fraction compared to the alternatives.
Well, there's zero impact if you don't mine at all.
No, but that's not the way to think about this, because that's turning a blind eye to land-based mining.
Demand for minerals is exploding. Indonesia supplies more than half the nickel globally, and to grow, it's bulldozing more rainforests, home to a rich biodiversity.
By 2030, you can expect that every other car you see, every third car on the road will easily be an electrified car.
Josipa Petrunic is a transport consultant in Toronto.
We're talking about millions and millions of cars in the next few years and decades.
To meet decarbonization, the world will still need 19 times more nickel than it does today.
The end result is mining is dirty. Like, there's no pretty picture to mining, whether it's under the water or it's above ground. And our question to ourselves as Canadians or internationally is, how much destruction are we willing to accept in the interest of decarbonizing?
Canada is under pressure. Greenpeace recharging its campaign in Ottawa, demanding the government use its influence to resist seabed mining.
We know more about the moon than we know about the international seabed.
Catherine Coumans works with Mining Watch Canada.
The reason they want to mine the deep sea bed is not to protect the Earth from climate change. They want to mine the deep sea bed because they want to make a profit. And it's very hard for Canada, a mining country, to say no to mining companies.
What would happen if the Canadian government decided to buck or oppose your business plan?
I hope that's a situation that never arises. And for that reason, I've never had to spend much time thinking about it.
He may have to now. Canada announced late Monday it's supporting an interim moratorium. We spoke to Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson.
There's a lot more science that needs to be done before Canada would be prepared to support regulations that would enable deep sea mining.
So is that saying we are okay with it as long as we get the right science?
It's not no forever. It may well be that after we accumulate the science that we actually make a decision that this can be done in a certain way, perhaps in certain places, but I'm not going to prejudge that.
What's the news coming in?
Gerard Barron is pressing on, pitching to potential investors, admitting there's not much love out there from his critics. I mean, you've got haters out there. Wouldn't you agree?
Of course, yes.
So if that noise, as you call it, becomes a bellow and convinces the International Seabed Authority or others to pause or stop, then you're in trouble.
I would rate that as a 0.1 of 1% chance.
But the stakes at sea could not be higher. And TMC is not the only company lining up for a green light to mine the deep.
So, Susan, what is the reaction to Canada's decision to call for a pause on this type of mining?
Well, we spoke to Greenpeace and Mining Watch Canada tonight, and both consider the announcement from Canada a step forward. It is not a ban. The metals company told us that Canada's position is not new in substance, that it always has wanted regulations in place before commercial mining starts. And you know, Ian, just because Canada wants a pause doesn't mean there will be one. It depends on what other member countries at the International Seabed Authority want. And let's remember, this is not just one company who wants to mine the seabed. Multiple countries and companies have interests in this area, and there is huge pressure to collect those minerals. So we're looking at high-stakes politics and nowhere near the end.
Interesting issue, really interesting story. Thanks, Susan.
You're welcome.